Imagine a 5-year-old boy telling his parents something impossible. He says he remembers another life. He says he was a fighter pilot in World War II. He remembers the airplane, he remembers the ship, and he remembers the moment his plane fell into the ocean. But there is one terrifying question. How could a small boy know the life story of a pilot who died more than 60 years before he was born? Tonight, we explore the mystery of the boy who remembered his past life. In a quiet town, there lived a small boy named Daniel. Daniel was only 5 years old. He lived with his parents in a small yellow house near a park. His father worked at a bank. His mother was a teacher. Daniel was a happy child. He loved playing with toy cars. He loved drawing pictures. He loved asking questions. But Daniel was also different from other children. Sometimes he said strange things, very strange things. One night, Daniel woke up suddenly. He ran into his parents' bedroom. His mother sat up in bed. "Daniel, what happened?" she asked. Daniel looked frightened. "I had the dream again," he said quietly. His father turned on the light. "What dream?" he asked. Daniel spoke slowly. "The war dream." His parents looked at each other. Daniel had talked about this dream before, but they thought it was only a child's imagination. Children often have strange dreams, but this dream was different. Daniel said the same thing every time. "I was not Daniel," he said. "I was someone else." His mother tried to comfort him. "It was just a dream," she said softly. But Daniel shook his head. "No," he said, "it felt real, very real." Over the next few weeks, Daniel kept talking about the dream. At first, his parents did not worry. They thought it was just a phase. But Daniel's stories became more detailed. One afternoon, Daniel was drawing at the kitchen table. His mother looked at the picture. It showed an airplane, but it was not a normal airplane. It looked old, very old. His mother asked him, "Where did you see that plane?" Daniel answered without looking up, "I flew it." His mother laughed gently. "You mean in your dream?" Daniel shook his head. "No, in my other life." His mother froze. "What do you mean?" Daniel looked at her seriously. "My name was not Daniel." "What was your name?" she asked. Daniel answered calmly, "James." His mother felt a strange feeling in her stomach. "James what?" she asked. Daniel thought for a moment. Then he said something surprising. "James Houston." His mother had never heard that name before, but Daniel spoke as if it was very familiar, as if it was his real name. Daniel began talking about things no 5-year-old should know. He talked about airplanes. He talked about soldiers. He talked about war. One evening, his father sat with him in the living room. "Daniel," his father said gently, "can you tell me more about the dream?" Daniel nodded. "It was not a dream," he said again. "I remember it." "What do you remember?" Daniel stared at the floor. Then he began speaking slowly. I was flying over the ocean. It was very loud. There were other planes with me. His father listened carefully. What kind of planes? Daniel answered immediately. Fighter planes. His father felt confused. How do you know that word?
Daniel looked at him. I was a pilot. The room became very quiet. Daniel continued. There was fire in the sky. Other planes were shooting at us. His father felt uncomfortable. These were not normal stories for a child. What happened next? He asked. Daniel took a deep breath. My plane was hit. I tried to escape, but it was too late. He looked up at his father. I remember the fire. I remember the water. Then Daniel said something that made his father feel cold. I died. Silence filled the room. Finally, his father asked a quiet question. Daniel, where did this happen? Daniel answered without hesitation. Near Japan.
Daniel's parents could not stop thinking about his words. A 5-year-old boy should not know so much about war. He should not know about fighter planes. He should not talk about dying in the ocean. At first, they thought it was only imagination, but Daniel kept telling the same story again and again, and every time the details were the same. One evening, Daniel's father decided to ask more questions. He sat beside Daniel on the sofa. "Daniel," he said gently, "can you tell me about the plane you flew?" Daniel nodded. "It was small," he said. "It had a propeller in the front." His father asked, "Was it a jet?" Daniel shook his head. "No, it was not a jet. It was a Corsair." His father frowned. "Corsair?" Daniel nodded again. "Yes." His father felt confused. He had never talked about airplanes with Daniel before. How could a 5-year-old know the name of a warplane? His father decided to search the internet. He typed the word Corsair. Soon he saw pictures of an old fighter plane from World War II. The plane had a very special shape. Its wings were bent downward like a bird. His father looked at the picture. Then he showed it to Daniel. "Is this the plane?" Daniel looked for only 1 second. "Yes," he said, "that's the one." The strange discoveries did not stop. Daniel began to remember more things. One night during dinner, Daniel suddenly said something new. "I took off from a ship." His mother looked surprised. "A ship?" she asked. Daniel nodded. "A big ship in the ocean." His father asked carefully, "Do you remember the name of the ship?" Daniel thought for a moment. Then he said slowly, "Natoma." His parents stared at him. "Natoma?" Daniel nodded again. "Yes, Natoma." His father immediately searched the name online, and what he found shocked him. During World War II, there was an aircraft carrier called USS Natoma Bay. It was a ship used to launch fighter planes. Pilots took off from its deck. His father felt a chill run down his back. This could not be a coincidence. But Daniel continued speaking. "I remember my friends," he said. "They were pilots too." His father asked quietly, "Do you remember any names?" Daniel looked at the ceiling, thinking hard. Then he said, "I remember one." "What was his name?" his father asked. Daniel answered, "Jack Larson." His parents were now very quiet. Something strange was happening. Very strange. Daniel's father could not sleep that night. He kept thinking about the name Natoma and the name James Huston. The next day, he began searching for information about World War II pilots. He looked through old records. He read stories about pilots who flew Corsair planes. Then he found something surprising. There was a pilot named James Huston, Jr. He had served during World War II, and he had flown from the aircraft carrier USS Natoma Bay. Daniel's father stared at the screen. His heart was beating fast. He continued reading. The record said that James Huston's plane was shot down near Japan. He died when his plane crashed into the ocean. Daniel's father leaned back in his chair. His mind was full of questions. How could Daniel know this? He had never talked about this pilot before. Daniel had never seen these records, yet his story sounded almost the same. That evening, Daniel's father showed the information to his wife. She read the story slowly. When she finished, she looked up at him. "This is impossible," she said quietly. But they both knew something strange was happening, something they could not explain. Meanwhile, Daniel was playing with his toy airplanes in the living room. He made the sounds of engines. Then he suddenly shouted, "Watch out!" He turned one plane upside down. Smoke sounds came from his mouth. Then he whispered something very softly. "My plane is going down." And for a moment the room felt very cold. After finding the information about James Huston, Jr., Daniel's parents felt both curious and afraid. Could their son really remember another life? Or was it only a strange coincidence? Daniel's father decided to learn more. He searched for people connected to the aircraft carrier USS Natoma Bay. After many days of searching, he found a group of former sailors and their families. Some of them were still alive. Some had written books about the war. Daniel's father contacted them. At first, people did not believe his story. A little boy remembering a pilot from World War II? It sounded impossible. But when Daniel's father shared the details, the people became interested. The names, the airplane, the ship, everything sounded correct. Finally, they contacted the family of the pilot, the family of James Huston, Jr. They agreed to meet Daniel. A few weeks later, Daniel and his parents traveled to another city. They were going to meet the pilot's sister. Her name was Anne. She was already an old woman. When Daniel walked into the room, Anne looked at him carefully. Daniel looked back at her. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Daniel said something very surprising. "Hello, Anne." The old woman froze. Daniel's parents had never told him her name. But Daniel continued speaking. "You used to call me Jimmy." Tears slowly filled Anne's eyes, because Jimmy was the childhood nickname of her brother, the brother who had died in the war. Anne decided to ask Daniel some questions. She wanted to see if the boy truly remembered anything. "Daniel," she said gently, "do you remember anything about your old home?" Daniel thought for a moment. Then he nodded. "Yes," he said. "There was a big tree in the yard." Anne's eyes widened. That was true. Their family had a large oak tree in front of their house. Daniel continued, "I used to climb that tree when I was young." Anne could hardly speak. She asked another question. "Do you remember our father?" Daniel nodded again. "He was very strict," he said, "but he loved us." Anne covered her mouth with her hand. Everything Daniel said was correct, even small details.
Things that nobody had told him. Later, Anne showed Daniel several old photographs. Some pictures showed pilots from the war. In one photo, many young men were standing together. Anne asked, "Can you find James?" Daniel looked carefully. Then he pointed to one man in the picture. "That's me," he said. Anne looked at the photo. Daniel was pointing at James Houston, Jr., the pilot who had died many years ago. After the meeting, Daniel and his parents returned home. Their lives slowly became normal again. As Daniel grew older, something interesting happened. His memories began to fade. He stopped talking about the war. He stopped talking about airplanes and ships. Soon he was just a normal boy again. But the mystery of his memories remained. Scientists and psychologists heard about Daniel's story. Some believed it was proof of reincarnation, the idea that a person can live more than one life. Others believed there must be another explanation. Maybe the boy heard the story somewhere. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe the human mind is capable of strange things. Even today, nobody knows the full answer. But one question remains. How could a small boy know the life story of a pilot who died many years before he was born? Was it only imagination? Was it coincidence? Or did Daniel truly remember another life? The truth may still be waiting somewhere in the shadows of memory. And that is why the story of the boy who remembered his past life continues to fascinate people around the world. Because sometimes the past may not be as far away as we think. As Daniel grew older, his memories of the past life slowly faded. He stopped talking about the war. He stopped talking about the airplanes. He stopped talking about the ship. But the mystery remained. His parents never forgot what he had said. They often wondered, was it just imagination? Was it a coincidence? Or did Daniel really remember another life? Sometimes, late at night, Daniel would look at the stars. He would think about the ocean. He would remember flying over the water. And he would feel a strange connection, a connection to someone he had once been. Scientists and psychologists studied the case. They tried to find answers. Some believed in reincarnation. Some believed it was the power of memory. Some believed it was a mystery that could never be solved. But one thing was certain. A small boy had told a story that could not be explained. A story of bravery, of loss, of life before life. And even now, people still ask, could memories really travel across time?
Could a life truly begin again? Or are some mysteries meant to remain unsolved? Daniel never forgot the feeling that he had lived before, and that somewhere in the past he had flown, fought, and fallen into the ocean. And maybe, just maybe, the past is never really gone.